Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and following a similar trend to the video I released yesterday, we're going to be talking about characters who want to be modded for max health, and getting into the details a little bit, explaining that both the pros and the cons, because sometimes I think when you're modding characters, you need to understand what you're giving up. Like when you're modding for max health, you're sacrificing other stats, or you may need to get them on the secondary rather than the primary. So hopefully you guys enjoy this kind of mini series I'm doing. Let me know what other stats I should be covering. So let's give a shout out to our channel members, as always, for continuing their support, keeping the faith. Thank you guys again. If you're ever interested, link down below along with a link to the Discord. Go check it out. I've been posting a bunch in the Discord because I've got a ton of amazing mods lately, so got to be bragging about those in the Mod Success and Glory channel. So thank you guys. Let's get into our video here. Let's talk about characters who want max health. Alright folks, now hopefully there's not a bunch of like obvious ones. I tried to pick out characters that maybe you didn't quite think about. So the first one I have to always mention is Royal Guard. I feel like a lot of people know he wants max health, but we need to understand why. For those of you who are maybe newer, going for Lord Vader, he needs max health. Now remember, Lord Vader takes every character's health and protection and combines them. The reason he wants max health, Royal Guard does, is because of the way that his unique ability works. His unique happens before Lord Vader's leadership. So the doubling of his max health, the gaining health equal to 5% of the leader, then doubling it, the more max health this guy has, he gains more from that than he does if you mod him for protection. That has been tested by a lot of people. So that is something to keep in mind. The only thing I'd consider here, I would say, I'd be curious what that would look like if we, with Relic 9 now. I don't know if that's still, I can't remember the last time somebody looked at that, but I think every time someone has done that math. So that is one that I would say, yeah, max health makes the most sense for him. I even have a defense set too. All right. Obviously now we're getting into the Kenobi team. Now Jedi Master Kenobi, the big thing here is just, hey, he gives it out, but also they get protection up, which protection up is based on your max health. The other thing we want to keep in mind here, and we'll get into, is another part of his kit with this Savior ability down here, right? He's got that mini Savior where they're going to drop to 1% health. They gain these, bonuses. So with Commander Tano and Snips, the reason they both want max health, again, Commander Tano is going to give out extra max health, and Snips actually gains 40% inside of her kit. So there's a lot of, bonuses there. The bigger thing here, though, why you mod both of them for health is because in the Jedi Master Kenobi team, Commander Tano is the biggest threat to your side. All those extra bonuses make that team so much more challenging to beat. It is actually, it's a noticeable difference of them with and without her in terms of how much health they have, the defense, everything. So she is the linchpin to that team. She's the glue. She holds it together. So you're wondering, well, then why Snips? Well, going back to Kenobi's kit, remember, once you get rid of this Savior, you can start killing people. So what a lot of players would do is you would target Snips because her max health would be so much lower because she was either lower relic levels or everybody mods her for offense and not max health. So she was really easy to drop below that 1% health threshold, and then she gets that mini Savior, and then you would go all in on Commander Tano and mow her down. And a lot of times you could do this before Kenobi would hit ultimate, and then the battle is basically over. When you mod them both for max health, it makes that so much more challenging because you're not really, sure, maybe Snips, the way their max health ends up all together, it's kind of one of those where they're both going to be pretty difficult to kill. So you're just not giving the enemy an easy way to kill one of these characters. Now, the one thing here when you're modding particularly these two for max health is going up against Lord Vader. If you are going to bring Kenobi to do that fight, you have to be a lot more cognizant of those damage over times and the impact they have against these girls. Because again, if you're ramping that max health, anybody landing exposes, damage over times, those kind of abilities, they will completely devastate your characters if they're modded for max health. It is actually, and it's very noticeable, like 1000% noticeable, but I think it's worth it because in a lot of the other counters to this team, it's about killing one of those two characters and keeping them alive is more important than boosting their offense or critical damage. Again, just the way I feel with that, and it's been very successful for me. Next is Supreme Leader Kylo Ren and Starkiller. The reason they want max health is because they have no passive protection recovery. Kylo, in fact, has no protection recovery at all. There's not even somebody inside of his faction that can give him additional protection recovery. So there's no reason to put any kind of protection on this guy. It's a complete waste. It's awful, right? No protection recovery. Starkiller does have protection recovery when he uses the Star Destroyer ability and he pulls it down. All allies will recover 100% health and protection. So he will gain his protection back there, but it's a one-time thing, and then after that it goes away. So I like modding him for max health. One, because the Unleashed ability deals damage equal to 80% of his max health, so you're getting additional damage from that. But more importantly, because he doesn't have that passive recovery, adding that protection on, it's a one-time saving grace. After that, you have a lot less max health that you're working with, and it's easier to kill him. So by modding him for max health, you're getting more out of that, and he can recover it through health steal, right? He does have a decent bit of health steal, and he deals enough damage that he's kind of constantly at max health. It just makes everything a lot easier. And the reason we want to make sure we're dealing as much damage with this ability as possible is because once he gets unleashed, he will gain a bonus turn. And then he can call in the Star Destroyer. So he calls in the Star Destroyer. If it defeats an enemy, he takes another turn. This can be really important when you're going up against a character like Rey, where you call in the Star Destroyer, you kill one of the side units, and then maybe you even killed Ben Solo. He gets his bonus turn, and you can kill Rey, so that way she doesn't come back anymore. Ben will keep respawning, but Rey is dead because Ben's gone. So this is really important that you're dealing as much damage as possible with this ultimate ability. I wanted to make sure I covered that. Like that, no passive recovery would be enough, but there's other elements to their kits. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, he really needs a buff with protection or, extra health steal. It's the only way he can keep himself alive. Leia, very similar. I almost put Starkiller down here, but she does have ways to regain protection, so I wanted to kind of leave her alone. The reason Leia wants to be modded for health is entirely because of her ultimate ability, that she deals damage to all enemies equal to her max health, 30% regularly, 90% if they're ambushed. And again, why that can be very important, in case you're wondering, is because if this ability defeats an enemy, revive all defeated rebel allies. Do you know how absurd it is that if she gets a kill, like you're working against Leia, and this has happened to people in GAC, it's happened to me, both good and bad, where you're killing guys, you're killing some of the Leia characters, she calls in that ultimate, she gets a kill, everybody's brought back, and all that work was for nothing. It is awful when that happens. It's like completely devastating to your run. So the best thing to do for your Leia is mod her for health, so that way if you're bringing her on offense or she's sitting on defense, that ultimate deals more damage, potentially revives any dead allies, and then obviously it's easier to recover your health as well through other abilities, because again, protection is one of those things that you kind of need like certain passiveness or abilities to target protection recovery, whereas she has health steal already. So even on her basic and her special abilities here, that damage she deals will result in additional health steal gains. So health steal is always kind of, with most characters, health is the way to go from the purest perspective that you can get health steal back. Obviously, other characters do like protection because they have that ability to recover it. And, of the two, you could argue either way. It really depends on the team that you're using, kind of thing. All right, these characters right here, they want health because their base protection is abysmal. These are some of the lowest base protection characters in the game. So just to show you what I mean by that, let's go to Grandmaster Yoda. So I've got a health mod on him. Let's say I switch this out for protection just for the sake of argument. So he's at 70 and 20 here, right? If I switch this out just for protection, so I'm losing 8,000 health for a 4,000 gain in protection. Like, that is awful, right? Like, that is so bad. He's already pretty squishy as it is, but that's even worse, right? Like, you're losing a lot of protection, and you may not think that that's a big deal, But think about some of these characters who can increase his max health and other aspects of his kit. That health recovery, that, extra health can be a, big boost. All of a sudden it turns into a decent bit, and that can keep him alive in between, whether it's a battle or, keep him going and he gets to take an extra turn. Other characters, that's the way. Bo-Katan, she's got a really bad base protection. It's not good at all. The resistance heroes, and I'm calling myself out with this one because I have a protection circle on Finn and I've got a protection circle on Poe. I hate it. They're there for speed purposes or, the secondary on Poe. I need to get rid of them. It's been plaguing me for the longest time. It pisses me off. I'm aware. Calling myself out like I should be modding them for health. And then same thing with Count Dooku, which is crazy because with his Zeta, he can recover 15% protection when he counterattacks, right? Or when he attacks outside of his turn, he recovers 15% protection. The thing is, his base protection is so low, it's not worth modding him that way. I did that for a while, and I finally got around to changing it where I've got max health on him now, and it's just so much better. He's a lot harder to kill, and the thing with him is that he actually has, 15% health steal as it is, so he has a decent bit of health steal there as well. It's just one of those things where you're like, that base, looking at those base stats can sometimes give you a pretty good indication of whether they want health or protection. And bear in mind for a lot of you, as you increase the relic levels of characters, their max health increases. Like Bo-Katan doesn't get a protection increase till relic 9. And she gets a bigger, max health boost from that point. So by modding for max health, you're taking more advantage of relic levels. That is one thing with relic levels that we kind of need to make sure we're aware of, is that for most characters, unless they're a tank, it's only increasing max health. So modding for max health will get you more out of your relics. Oops, skipping down. Now, these ones are pretty obvious. I would say that they ramp their max health. So with Darth Nihilus, he's the first one here. Whenever Darth Sion or Darth Traya are inflicted with a debuff, he gains turn meter and 30% max health stacking. So Nihilus can get in the millions of max health, like millions. Now, again, when he's going up against teams that have damage over times or exposes, or, you're going up against Malik, like, they don't care. But to an average team that's dealing damage based on, just physical damage or special damage, him having a ton of max health is massively problematic for your run. I try to call that out because he also, remember, through his Annihilate ability, he gains max health equal to the target's max health when he defeats them. So if you go and, annihilate someone with 100,000 max health, now Nihilus has even more. So he loves that max health. Asajj is another one who can ramp it. Now, it's not quite as much. She only gets, where is it? She only gets 5% max health every single time an ally or enemy is defeated. But it's still ramping, right? And depending if you run Paper Zombie, she can ramp her max health. It is a nice little boost, and it does add up over time. But the bigger one, of course, is Daka. Everybody knows this. She gains 10% max health stacking until the end of the encounter. Whenever another ally is revived, right? So whenever an ally is revived, she's going to gain 10% max health stacking, which is obviously lovely. We love to see that. And how that really plays a role, not just through her reviving them, but think about when the wording of, you have to remember the wording of that Night Sister leadership with Mother Talzin, right, is right here. When, where is it at? Down here. When a Night Sister ally uses a basic during their turn, a random defeated Night Sister ally is revived with 50% health and called to assist. Then the revived ally is immediately defeated unless an enemy was defeated. So that revive counts towards Daka gaining 10% max health. So that's kind of how she can ramp really, really far, is the wording of Talzin's leadership there is revived, which triggers Daka's unique ability. And then Darth Maul is another one, and I'm sure people have kind of seen this in the raid and just don't understand how it works. So Darth Maul gains max health equal to 10% of the damage he deals. So think about, as he's in that raid and he's ramping his, he's ramping his max health, he's ramping his damage. So every time he deals damage, if you deal 100,000 damage based through his AoE, you gain 10,000 max health. And that will ramp not just in that raid, but I've done that in territory battles. I've even done it in the assault battle. You can ramp his max health significantly through the amount of damage you deal. And it can be, makes a massive difference in a lot of, in a lot of instances, particularly in that raid. As it goes on, he can kind of solo a wave because he has so much max health. All right, then we got to talk about the characters with bonus protection. Characters like Shorty here. I forget where it is. Is it in her unique? Is it the unique? Yeah. Oh, protection up. Yeah, protection up. And then Nest has bonus protection. Whenever she gets damaged, she gains bonus protection. So these two, again, I feel like they're more obvious, selections. But any kind of protection up, bonus protection characters really like that max health, because it does make them a lot more challenging to beat. And especially with Enfys Nest, which you want to keep in mind. Now, mine's not the greatest here because I've got a bunch of tenacity. I really should figure something out here. But with Nest, how you want to think about this is by modding her for max health. Yes, you're getting this bonus protection, and there's characters who can ignore that. But if you give her a bunch of max health, it's still, that ignoring doesn't do quite as much, and she can counterattack. And when that bonus protection goes away at the end of her turn, if she has enough max health, depending on who's attacking, they might not be able to kill her, and then she goes back. That's how she can time people out. The last three characters, I have to mention these, even though everybody already knows it, but these three deal damage based on their max health. And there might be other instances, but Darth Malgus in particular, his Dark Deception ability is damage equal to 40% of his max health. Not to be confused with Darth Malak, whose life drain deals damage equals to the enemy's max health. So again, Malgus is going after his own, right? He's saying, hey, if I have, 130,000 health, I'm going to deal 40% of that. If I only have 80,000 max health, I'm going to deal 40% of that. So there's a big variation dependent on him, but it's the same to whoever he's attacking. Whereas Malak, if he's attacking your Darth Malgus, who has 135,000 max health, he will deal 135, again, barring that I know that he can, immune to health-based attacks, but he'll deal 135. If you're like Bane, Bane's the same. General Grievous, who has 158, he'll deal 158, So that's, again, just make sure you understand the difference between those two, because it can get confusing. With Darth Bane, his Essence of Dominance ability, you're going to deal damage based on his max health with this ability. So the more max health he has, the more damage he deals. And that's how as battles go on and you start seeing Darth Bane AoE for crazy amount of damage, it's because he's dealing damage based on that max health and we're siphoning it away. So again, I feel like that one's pretty obvious, but I had to mention them because somebody's going to be like, oh, what about these characters? And then for General Grievous, it's all of his abilities. Everything is based on his max health. So the more max health he has, the better he is. And honestly, on the triangle here, you can mod him for health, you can mod him for crit damage. I think at the end of the day, both can get warranted. I don't know what the right answer is. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't know what the right answer is. The only reason I go for more max health is because he can gain 10% max health when he uses this ability, so I think it can ramp more. I don't know. Someone tell me if I'm wrong. At the end of the day, you don't go wrong either way with him. But it is nice that when you're modding him, you don't have to worry about going for offense percent on the secondaries, because he doesn't deal damage based on his offense. It's all based on his health. So the more health, the better. So guys, there are more characters that could go on this list. I just wanted to kind of separate them into categories that make sense. Hopefully this helps you and gets you thinking about modding characters in a different light and gave you some information on the way certain characters' kits work. If you're enjoying this, please let me know. I'm trying to get back to some of those fundamentals of just, hey, here's understanding Swago. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.